moms and dads, it's me, Miss D, the Treehouse Lady. We're getting ready to start a new book and a new theme this week, but I wanted to kind of tell you about parent pages. Obviously this is not a book, but I thought that this would be a chance for me to offer you some ideas for extending different things that we do. So there's always things I can't get to when I do things. Even when I had my preschool and kindergarten classes, there were things I wanted to get to that I really couldn't. But I thought this would be a great place for me to share other ideas of things that you can do to extend those activities I've already posted on YouTube, and kind of introduce you to our next unit. So one of the things is I did find a big coconut, and I talked to our wee hearts about coconuts. One of the things I didn't get to do with coconut was I didn't get to do a sink or float activity. Sink and float is a great STEM activity that it fosters language development. It fosters a scientific vocabulary. It's a really easy way to introduce creating a hypothesis and making observations, which are very basic to basic science. So even if you think they aren't learning anything or doing anything, anytime you can have them make an observation, oh, it sounds like there's water inside this coconut. Any kind of observation that you can have them note and tell you about, excuse me, is important. It's an important part of science. So if you have a coconut, have them grab other things from around the house. And start with the coconut. Put it in a big tub of water, or in the kids' swimming pool if you have a little swimming pool, or even the bathtub. Any place you want to play with water, and just say, do you think this is going to sink, or do you think this is going to float? If there's a group of kids that they need something to do, have each one of them go and find two things, one for each hand. Especially with little ones, 1, 2. When they turn 2, they're really good at 1, 2, 3 or counting higher, but what does that mean? Well, you have 2 hands. We'll be talking about that this week because our number of the week will be 2. But one thing in each hand makes 2 things. Math, there you go. And then have them all put their things in and see which ones sink and which ones float. If you want to add a language component and you further the math component, or you have older kids that you have in your home, have them make a graph. Jamie, why don't you follow me over to the chalkboard and we'll talk about that. Jamie is my camera operator when he isn't in school. And let me grab my dry erase marker here. Graphing is an important way that they can record observations. So let's say that we're going to do sink and float. Oh, sorry. And we're going to do a coconut, a big Lego, a toy car. What else could we have lying around the house? A block, a rock. There we go. So we have 4 things. And what do we think the coconut's going to do? Sink or float? You think it's going to float? What about the Lego? Oh, you think it's going to float. What about the car? Kind of heavy, it might sink. How about the block? It's kind of heavy, it might sink. What about the rock? So then, now we've made their predictions and we've recorded predictions on a graph. Let's see, did the coconut sink or did it float? It floated. We could put a circle around it. We could put a smiley face next to it. What about the big Lego? Did it sink or did it float? It floated. And how about the toy car? It floated. We thought it was gonna sink. Aw. We'll just leave that one there. Or you can put a strike through it. How about that block, that wooden block that you can't seem to find when it's time to pick it up, but you can find when you're doing an activity? It floated too. What about that rock we found when we were on our hike? It did sink, didn't it? So how many things did we find that sink? We found one thing that sank right to the bottom. How many things floated? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 smiley faces. So we found 4 things that float and 1 thing that sinks. So which one's more? 4 or 1? 4. 4 is the bigger number. Let's put a number 4 right over there. Good job. So parents, it's just kind of an example of how you can turn an observation into a whole math and science activity. There's a couple of other things you could do. Loose parts, or I have a tinker bucket. Making number ones out of any kinds of things you have, buttons, rocks, noodles, anything that you can have them create the image of a number 1. I don't recommend putting a little at the top of the number 1. I think when they're just getting their fine motor skills, it can be really hard to not make that look like a 7. So for number 1, I just go top to bottom, top to bottom. But anything you can have them make that straight line with is great fine motor activity, and it's pre-writing. Obviously, when they get to preschool, you'll want them to use markers, or another great thing to start them off with is the bingo stamp things, the dot things, the dot markers. Having paint with Q-tips, with our popsicle sticks, anything like that that you can think of that doesn't require paperwork at first, is a great way for them to explore things with their hands, make things very hands-on. Let those fingers and those little muscles, those fine motor skills develop. So that's my parent page on Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, and an activity to extend that out. Our next, this week, we are going to be doing Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. Bye, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. Oh, another thing is, before I say goodbye to Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, is any activities that we do, I generally leave in a box or a basket or a kit and put on the activity shelves for them, in addition to things for them to explore. So we'll be doing colors this week and rainbow fish. So there's my rainbow, and we'll be talking about that in a little while. Rather than doing a color a day, we'll be doing the rainbow colors with a few extras. So I hope you find some great ideas on the parent pages, and I will see you soon. Bye everybody. Thanks for checking in.